Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com joining us now. As there is plenty to talk about, Alec, there are 5 consecutive visits that IU hosted on the basketball side of things, starting with Jamie Kaiser, Arrington Page, um, Deshaun Harris Smith. Then the beginning of the week, you had 25 guys who were a couple of years away, but of uber importance. Probably will be the 2 biggest sign if they sign with Indiana, would be the 2 biggest Indiana signees for Mike Woodson, and that's 3 years away. Um, but those 2 guys are going to be special. They already are. But the 3 guys that were in also special, also needed. I think that they get 2 out of the 3. Not saying that they can't get all 3, but I would not be surprised to see a commitment from one Jamie Kaiser if he commits by the end of the month. But he did make that second trip to Maryland.
Yeah, and kind of early word coming out of that is, I mean, things seem to be trending away from Indiana and going more towards Maryland's direction. Obviously, from the people that I talked to yesterday, he did not make a commitment while he was on that visit. Not to say that he didn't kind of give them the word of, hey, this is probably what I'm going to do. But everything post the kind of unofficial visit that he took seems to be trending that way. But there's still some time. If Indiana can somehow try to convince him to take a senior year visit to Indiana in the fall, that obviously changes everything. But coming into this Indiana visit, Jamie Kaiser was all kind of in the mindset of, I want to commit a little bit sooner rather than later. His dad was the one who kind of wanted to let everything play out a little bit. I think that visit to Maryland showed that Jamie Kaiser Jr. was the one who was going to end up being able to kind of make the decision in terms of timeline. He's going to obviously IMG Academy, so he's going to be getting down there here in the next week or 2. And I think he wanted to get that over with before he went back to, or I guess I should say down to school there for IMG, where he just transferred last month. So it looks like that one will probably be Maryland. But at the same time, you got to look at what Indiana did to at least draw out this recruitment. A lot of people are going to look at it as obviously if he does end up committing to Maryland as a loss here. But when you look at all the details and you look at how dead set on Jamie Kaiser was to go to Maryland about 2 months ago, he was all but ready to commit at the end of June. What Indiana did to push that back and really make it a 2-horse race here, to the fact that, or to the point that Jamie Kaiser still had to take an extra visit to Maryland just to kind of cement everything, really, I think shows the ability that Mike Woodson and this coaching staff has on these official visits. We continue to hear it all the time about, what they do on these visits to really, get the excitement level of the kids and especially the parents. And I think that this shows, again, what they were able to do on this visit. They just were a little bit behind coming into it. And a lot of that has to do with Maryland being the homeschool team there for Jamie Kaiser and that family. So I think this one ends up going to Maryland. But again, if you look at the whole recruitment of Jamie Kaiser, I think as an Indiana fan, you still have to be pretty confident in your ability in the staff to land the kids that they want, just due to the fact that they were able to make up a lot of ground in kind of such a short period of time.
And I said all along, 2 out of the 3 is what I expect. And the 2 were Deshaun and Jamie Kaiser that would probably go one way or the other. If they only were to get 1 or less, that would obviously be seen as a big miss for Indiana. How do you feel about the other 2, and even all of them really for IU?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at we'll kind of go in order here. So Arrington Page was that second visit that Indiana had. He was the one that I think, the Indiana staff was the most confident in going into that visit. And I think that just kind of cemented that point. Indiana does sit in a really good spot for Arrington Page at the moment. He is supposed to take a visit at the end of this month to Miami. But after that, it seems like if that visit does happen, it seems like the decision will come rather quickly. The people that I've talked to around that recruitment feel pretty confident that Indiana is one of those one or two teams that are kind of standing above the rest. And honestly, with Indiana's need for front court, immediate minutes, kind of role, and that was one thing that talking to a few people, talking to Arrington, one thing that really stood out was how they were going to use him in that offense, and that ability to be that versatile 4-5 man that he is, and not so much just kind of stuck into playing in the post. And that was one thing that really stood out to that entire family, but also Arrington. So I think Indiana has to feel pretty confident with that. When it comes to Deshaun Harris-Smith, this was one where they were behind in this recruitment from the start. They offered him in the first live period in July. The fact that they were able to get him on campus just 2 weeks after offering him shows you the connections that they did have and the priority that they put on him. But I think that this one's a little bit harder to read. You have Xavier, Villanova are kind of, I would say, the two other schools that are pushing really hard for him. You have Penn State and Maryland, some other schools that he has visited. I think Maryland could be a little bit of a dark horse in that one, just due to the fact that is that hometown school again, right in the DMV area there. Everything that I've kind of heard behind the scenes there is originally he wanted to make a decision early parts of August. His birthday's coming up next week, and he had kind of floated out the idea of potentially making a decision then. Talking to his mom earlier this week, it sounds like that will kind of be the brakes will kind of be pumped on that potential announcement or decision. And it looks like it may draw out a little bit longer, but I think Indiana's probably just not sitting in as great of a spot after that visit as early word was when he did in that visit. So I think you're looking at probably 1 out of the 3 for Indiana to land, which again, I mean, if you look at what their class of 2023 already is, now you're sitting at 3 commitments before the next college basketball season starts. And that's still a very good spot to be in. 3, top 150 kids, 3 4-stars, 1 top 50 forward in Arrington Page, who's going to come in and be able to produce at a pretty good level right away to kind of go with Malik Renaud, if that is the case. And then you go to the transfer portal, or you go to the late signing period, which Indiana's been able to make up some ground with. Obviously, both of the last 2 classes with Tamar Bates and Malik Renaud. So I think you have to be pretty confident in whichever way the cards fall here in the next couple of weeks or month here for Indiana. But I do think Arrington Page is the one guy out of the 3 that look a lot brighter for Indiana.
But the one thing that sticks out to me there, Arrington Page going on a visit to Miami, the first thing that jumps out to me are 2 words: John Ruiz. And if you don't know who John Ruiz is, he's the guy who wrote the check for $800,000 to Nigel Pack from the transferred from K-State, the Indiana kid, back in. But now Purdue thought they had him, and boom. What's adding an Arrington Page to what they have would also be a boon for Miami. So there's no way that they're not going to be making a big run. And even though I talk about Indiana being very good at NIL, they're not going to write a check like John Ruiz could possibly write directly to Arrington Page if they really want him.
Yeah, that's accurate. And Indiana does it in, much different ways than what it seems like Miami is kind of doing with their NIL down there, just through the first, couple of months here of really NIL being a huge factor. But when it comes down to it, I don't think that's a huge factor in this decision. Could it end up being at the end of the day? Maybe, once he gets down there and sees everything. But at this point, what he's looking for is a lot more of the family type atmosphere, playing time, and not so much just starting from day one, but having a specific role and a significant role on a team, a winning team, and also just style of play. And I think if you look at what Indiana was able to do with the entire Arrington Page family when they were down there, I think that'll be hard to beat for Miami. Not to say that they obviously can't do it, but I think they just want to make sure that if they do end up going on that visit, that that they just kind of cement themselves in knowing that Indiana is kind of the place. But Indiana's done a phenomenal job in that recruitment from day one. We're one of the first kind of high major programs to really hone in on him and make him a priority. Yuzir Roseman has a terrific connection within that family as well. So they have all kind of the boxes crossed off there and checked off. I think Miami is going to have to do a lot to kind of woo that family. And I just don't see a huge NIL check being the deciding factor as we sit here at the beginning of August when you're looking at Arrington Page.
Well, and one thing that Indiana will have, not one, several things, the tradition, but not, you can take all the Indiana stuff and trappings and that Miami doesn't even come close to having. But Indiana, hopefully for the IU fans, they should be playing at a higher level, which will be seen. You're playing in a league that is solvent, that is solid, and it just seems like there's more to offer by coming to. And I'm not saying that because I cover IU, but he'd be playing in the ACC. But the ACC is, with all this change, man, there's going to be a much more focus. He's going to be in school for 3 years, probably at least. I don't know. I don't think he's a 2-year kid. I think he's a 3-year at least, and maybe 4 if you keep him. I don't know. Is there any such thing as a 4-year kid anymore?
At least probably not at the same school, right?
No, that's not in the 11th, 12th, and 13th spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, Indiana, really did a very good job. Like I said, checking all the very key significant boxes that they needed to check. I think even and more. And I think style of play and the ability to play with a good point guard is really going to be something that I think will be the deciding factor for this recruitment. Arrington Page has played with really, really good point guards in high school and on the AAU circuit. And when you look at what Indiana potentially could have next year, if that means Jalen Hood-Schifino is still back, or if that means they go out and get a grad transfer or just a transfer to go with Gabe Cupps as well. I think you have to look at that potential, point guard, big man duo, which was a lot of what they showed Arrington Page on the visit, of how Mike Woodson really wants to use the point guard center, point guard power forward, pick and roll, pick and pop type system that they started to really use a lot during the February, March stretch when Xavier Johnson was really at his best. And that was a downhill point guard who can create off of the pick and roll, but you need to have a significant either pop or roller in that big man. And that's what you obviously got at times with Race Thompson and then Trace Jackson Davis. And that's kind of the role that they're looking at Arrington Page playing. And when you look at Miami, who knows what happens with Nigel Pack. They don't have a lot of the same kind of key point guard system oriented players that Indiana has in their system right now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like I said, assuming that visit stays on the schedule and he goes down there, because I think they're going to have to do a lot more than just throw a lot of money at him to get him to commit to Miami.